Hey everybody, whether you are watching this on the YouTube channel as a short video or possibly seeing it appear on the interview that I pre-recorded on Saturday, second interview with Lujan Nagual, Lujan Matus, and I wanted to report in. The first time I interviewed him, we just had a huge, deeper understanding and coming into a better knowing within myself. And during our last interview, which will air live on this Thursday. Today would be Tuesday, so in 2 more days on December 17th, 2015, you'll see it live, the pre-record that we did. And it brought up pinpointed and exposed some issues that I have and dealing with energies and programming that I'm still carrying from wrongdoing, that I feel like people have wronged me. So it has been a really significant period, especially today. And so I wanted to kind of talk to people about that. So that there's an understanding that, there's always some recapitulating that needs to be done from past history. And there are people in this world that can help us. We can help each other expose where the inadequacies and failures and fears and all the other situations that keep ourselves in a personal repetitive cycle. So this is the deal. The world outside of us is not going to change. The only thing that's going to change is how we choose to interact with that world. And how we choose to show up for the world and for ourselves. And Lujan had just an amazing statement, which just breaks all that new age propaganda apart. And there's a part of me, that has been blocking doing more tensegrity practice. Obviously, I need to lose some weight. And so I'm hoping this last hurdle, I can really start committing to doing a pretty stiff power yoga practice, getting back into that and strengthening myself in a way so that I can start doing some more magical pass work in the morning. So I just got to figure out a time and commit to that time every morning and the length of time that I set aside daily. And Lujan has inspired me to do it, to get back to myself where I want to be. And I keep looking back to where I fell into the big pit, where there was a moment in time, I think it was when I got sick, and with the episode happening with my brain. And I think that was kind of the place where I felt seriously wronged, the epic wrong, the cherry on top of the wrongdoing that kind of threw me finally into the pit. And it has been difficult to get out of it. It all kind of goes back to my mom, and I guess my expectations even when I was young of what I thought that her work should be, or her job should be. And it wasn't until, 5 or 6 years after she died that I found out that, she was basically kidnapped and put in a mental hospital in the East Coast and drugged and given electroshock therapy. My family didn't know where she was at for months and months and months, maybe 6 months, until they got a call from the hospital, and they were asked to come get her. But back then people didn't travel much, and my family was poor. My grandmother was poor, and all they could do was put the money together to send a bus ticket to the mental hospital on the East Coast and get her on the bus, and hopefully she would make it back to California. So I'm not really sure my mom had the capacity 10 years later when she had me to be able to be any kind of mother. And she probably could have really used Luhan to help clear a lot of that stuff. So, I keep doing work. She's been dead like 18 years now, I think, maybe 15, 18 years. And I keep doing work, and I keep coming to these epiphanies. But during the show, Luhan hit it right on the dot. That I have, kind of tremendous, sorry, I'm feeling a little crooked. Tremendous wrongdoing. And it showed up last night. I was coming home really late. I live kind of out in the desert in a little trailer right now. It was really cold. Really cold. And, it was just one event after another. So, I came back from Reno out to the desert, drove, an hour and a half, and was tired. There's been a lot of stuff going on. I'm constantly, like Luhan says, in the wrong place at the right time, which means it's never going to be what we want it to be. It's always going to be the wrong place. It's always going to be not to our liking, not to our taste, but it's the right time to do the work. It's the right time to let go. It's the right time to recapitulate. It's the right time to change, let go. So I was coming down the road, one lane road, out, to the house, or out to where I'm at. And, it's like 10:30 at night, and it's dark. There's just not a lot going on out where I'm living. And this car just comes up behind me and is just tailgating me, and then actually pulls around me and kind of, pushes me off to the side of the road, and then just hauls ass. And I just have this huge amount of wrongdoing that showed up. Like, what the F is wrong with that guy? Like, what the hell is he thinking? Why is he doing this to me? Why does this always happen to me? And bam, bam, bam. I recognize, like, just went into wrongdoing. Everything, minute by minute, I'm starting to notice that I feel wrong. So, this morning, I had to take that wrongdoing down my timeline, into my past, see where it went. And it went right to my mom, and how I felt wronged by her constantly, at every turn, growing up. And how it's kind of transferred into my programming. And how every attempt I try to forgive her and let go has just, kind of dug out pieces of it, but hasn't really completely hit the bottom of the issue till Luhan pointed out the wrongdoing that I was carrying, being wrong. And, I have a justice, I have a social justice issue. And I gauge everyone by that. And can always point out what I feel that their wrongdoing is. Whether it's parenting or okay, so it was years down the road. I think I spent 10 years in strong therapy trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And so this information of what happened to my mother when she was young, when she was 18 years old, that my family just didn't want to talk about, held the secrets, to death do they part. They just won't let go of these secrets. That information about my mother could have been really helpful from the get-go. Could have made me much more understanding, much more forgiving, much more helpful, less angry. But it didn't come that way. So, because there was just so much in between, that even when the information came about what happened to my mom after she died, it just wasn't helpful. Because it was just so deep. So So today I'm recapitulating and I'm working through the original sin, the original place where the wrong doing, being wrong, took place. And I'm realizing that, it's a Buddhist thing too. It's based on expectation, like being so young and looking at other mothers and how they took care of their kids, or their relationship to the kids, or also, caused a lot of pain and suffering. So I just couldn't figure out why she wasn't that way. And what was wrong with me? That she couldn't love me. And one of the things I tell people is I don't ever remember her telling me she loved me, or holding me and hugging me, or but she couldn't, because of what she went through, the terror. She couldn't trust anybody anymore. Couldn't trust herself, and lived in terror that this event could happen to her again. She didn't really know what would have caused her to be, treated that way, or who may have sold her out, or I'm sure there was all kinds of issues, but she died young because of the suffering. that created the disease in her that she couldn't overcome. Because my family had buried so deeply this episode in her life that she couldn't even talk about it. It would be like betraying her family too, so it was never going to come out. She'd never be free. So, where do I go from here? I just kind of have to wade through it. Fully wade through it. And forgive myself for the anger and hostility I felt towards her. The anger I still have. Because she never helped us to work on this together. She left. And coming into forgiveness and the tremendous guilt I feel that I felt my whole life because I have felt this way about her, and who feels that way about the mother. Sorry, I'm all sniffly. Anyway, in my life I want to be real and authentic. And I'm doing a TV show now, and it's about self-empowerment. It's about how we move forward. And as difficult as it is to do this short video, I want people to see the truth, you know, that will help bring awareness. That there's a level of exposure sometimes that has to happen, and it doesn't feel good, and it's not pretty. There's a level of admittance and surrender and acceptance in order to recapitulate. And another thing that kind of impacted me that I'd really like to talk about as well. I have been working with extraterrestrial beings, galactic beings, for a long time. Interdimensional beings as well. In September 2014, I was headed for 10 days of ceremony, earth healing ceremony, with a Shoshone medicine man up north in Sandpoint, Idaho. It was very powerful. The support from all of the beings from all different places, galactic, interdimensional, natural, nature beings. You just couldn't. I took photos, and every photo there was a being, and not super hard that you had to look for to find me in the photo. And that really showed me that they're watching us, you know, like the spirit beings and the nature beings. They're watching us, and they're waiting for us to be with them and work with them and start the process of the earth healing work. But on my way, I was traveling through Northern California up a spirally road out of Reno. And on one of the turns, there's a trigger. Periodically, I have these triggers. I dream about things, strange things, and then all of a sudden they show up in my physical realm, and then they cause a trigger, which pushes me into another plane of existence, leaves my body behind sometimes. There's a blog I've written about a brick that was a really serious trigger, and you can find that on consciousofeconomics.com on my blog. I think it's just called The Brick, a Trigger. You can read more about that. But anyway, this really strange song came on the radio, and I thought, wow, that's kind of a really strange collaboration in music. And I listened to it, and I liked it. And then it went off, and then the whole radio station just went dead. You know. And then I looked for another radio station, and bam, the same song comes on, which is like, what the hell? You know, it's the first time I've ever heard this song. It comes on again. I mean, I'm listening to it, and I'm thinking, you know, it's just a really strange collaboration of music between two different, I guess, genres, really, you know. And then bam, then that was the trigger. The first time it didn't trigger in me. I was not probably fully in my body, so it didn't trigger me the way that it should have. And then I was gone. So I was not driving the van. Some aspect of me was probably driving the van through a twisty, windy, crazy road. And I was up in it was a huge place, and I couldn't see everything because most of it was pitch dark, and there were like 50 to 200 of these tall chairs, and they were all in a circle, and they were all pointing in, and I knew that there were a lot of other galactic beings there that I couldn't see. The only one I could see was the one that was straight across from me in the circle, and she was the only light that was there, and the light was emanating from her body. And I think that she would be considered a Nord, very pale skin, crystal blue eyes, you know, like white long hair, definitely female. And all of a sudden there was a projection of her voice, her inner voice. She didn't actually physically speak to me. And there were like 5 or 6 channels of information from before I came here, and all these events that had happened in my life that were painful and sometimes physically damaging, like having my head busted open with a gun when I was 6, and my brain was actually out on the ground, and I was unconscious for a long time. 6 major head injuries, and then they even talked to me about the brain tumor, cancer, whatever you want to call it. And anyway, the gist of their information is that they had to restrain me because where I came from, and they put me into this world and into this body to help impact this reality in some way. They had to keep damaging me to slow me down because I was much stronger than they had expected. And if they gave me an inch, I took a mile. And they said that they needed me to be on a time frame. But there was also, in the same interview that Luhan and I did, and you know, the thing is why I'm presenting this too is because I know he was telling me the truth, because the inner knower, my knowing, could hear it and felt what he said. And there's a part in the interview where he talks about that we really shouldn't be putting people on pedestals because we're all equal. You know, you're amazing, you're great, you know, like, you know, I have a tendency to put people on pedestals that I appreciate and respect. Elevating them in some way, which is also not healthy for them or me. So I also realized during this interview when he was talking about that elevation, tendencies of elevation, elevating others, elevating ourselves, self-importance, blah, 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 that I saw directly this experience I had with the galactic beings. And I realized that they had elevated me in that moment. Which means what? I'm not completely sure. However, why do people tear you down or build you up? Control, mind control, programming. Was it a program from my holographic generated, computer generated system coding to give me a certain kind of experience? Who knows? Was it a genuine, real experience? Who knows? But now I have to question beings who I've trusted more than humans, trusted more than anything I've ever trusted on this planet. So it brings a whole bunch of other stuff into question. And, I've always been suspicious of channeled information by galactic beings and the people that they choose to do so. If a galactic being really wanted to give you some information, they would show up on your TV screen, on your radio. If they had information for the world, or they had information for you, or they just show up in your bedroom in the middle of the night and be like, "Psst, hey you, hey, I come from the star constellation, Sirius, and I really need to tell you something," instead of channeled information. And having done shamanism practices for a long time, I'm very aware of interdimensional beings who are constantly working to entrap you. Scouts that come out in your dreaming world and even in your waking world, who are trying to ensnare you and trap you. And the self-importance, elevatedness, and sometimes the opposite, which is insecurity, failure, being wrong, applies. And the imbalance. And again, another lesson in standing in the center of my wheel, my personal medicine wheel, and not allowing that wheel to fluctuate in any way. Not to step out of balance off of it, to hold the center, to hold my knowing, my inner power, my being in the present moment, and making my choices from that, and how I'm going to interact out, how I'm going to interact with the world. Obviously, I'm not really sure how the interactions are going to go now from this point on with the galactic beings. I'm not sure if they offered this situation to me so that it would come up with Luhan Saturday, that I could see it, that maybe they were helping me to free myself by putting it on my path. There's a lot of questions that I don't know, that I'm not completely sure about. But what I do know is that I need to start working to bring myself back into balance, which means I have to kind of start letting go of some of the stuff that I've been chasing and running. And my life is not a marathon. Your life is not a marathon. And it's really highly important for you to be in it now, good, bad, or indifferent, and notice everything that's going on, good, bad, or indifferent, so that you can show up in this world with the biggest heart and the most light that you can possibly be. In every situation, with everyone, and everything. And I'm super grateful. I'm super grateful that Luhan could put this out for me. Help me to see some things that I have overlooked. And I always feel like this. Every time I've interviewed Luhan, I am with him physically, and he's talking to me physically, but I also pick up, I think, his non-physical self, the energies, and all of that is connected in his vibration, his field, his emotional body, his assemblage point, his luminous field, whatever you want to call it. And so there's so much more that I'm always hearing and picking up that I know that we didn't talk about. And the images, the visualizations. So anyway, if you're watching this, you'll be able to see the second archive show on my YouTube channel, and you can go ahead and I think it was like September 24th, 2015. You can watch the first interview I did with Luhan. Anyway, thank you so much, and we're in this together. And thanks and gratitude to Luhan. Thank you, my brother. Aho.